Young ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all. Once again, you are welcome here on your platform, much beloved, the platform for awakening consciousness. So it's making international headlines. The Baltic states, that is to say, Estonia, Lithuania, and others, are dismayed. They are hard at work, obviously, in synergy with the Europeans, to ensure that the ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine does not succeed. I repeat, the Baltic states do not want a peace agreement at all. They want the conflict in Ukraine to continue. This may seem very strange to you. This may seem difficult to understand. But the truth is, they have even said it. These states do not want peace to return to Ukraine. Why don't they want peace to return to Ukraine? Because these states fear that if peace returns to Ukraine, it will be their turn. Russia will turn its attention to them. And so, the situation becomes very complicated, and we understand even better why London and Paris are pushing Volodymyr Zelensky to do his utmost to perpetuate the conflict on the ground. Ukrainian, ladies and gentlemen, in this video conference, this is what we are going to talk about. But before continuing, I ask you to share the video conference as much as possible. Share it in all possible groups, share it as much as you can. Subscribe to this channel. Invite your friends to subscribe. There you go. Subscribe massively and give a lot. Of likes? That's what motivates me. It gives me courage. Let's dive into the depths, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. According to official information, according to the Financial Times, this Western media outlet that is widely followed, very well known, you already know, the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, oppose the ceasefire in Ukraine. They are afraid that after the ceasefire in Ukraine, Putin will go to war against them. We are witnessing what is called every man for himself, God help us all. Here are the Baltic states, for which NATO regularly fights. NATO does its best to protect them. It is these Baltic states that normally should be there to rescue Ukraine so that peace can return. It is these Baltic states that say they are opposed to the ceasefire. So, it will come to you. When there were undersea cable cuts, when Russia was accused, an extraordinary summit of the Baltic states was organized. At the end of this summit, it was requested to set up surveillance units for the airspace to fly over the area where the cable is located in the sea. Because of Russia, of course, and Ukraine, the summit that had borne fruit, we saw a first French plane operated jointly by the French and the Germans, which took to the skies. But Russia had attempted to shoot down this plane. So it must be said that NATO is working tirelessly to help the Baltic states and Ukraine against Russia. But in turn, what are the Baltic states doing? They say they are afraid that Putin will attack them. So they prefer that the aggression be directed towards Ukraine. Please share the video conference. So, according to official information, still from the Financial Times, the Baltic states are convinced that after the end of the special military operation in Ukraine, Russia will take care of their republic. So, instead of being afraid, this is my comment, instead of being afraid, these Baltic states would do better to behave more appropriately towards the Supreme Master of the Kremlin. I said Supreme Master of the Kremlin, there you go. So, they would do better to behave more appropriately. But they are the ones there provoking Russia. The Baltic states, in recent times, have greatly and extensively provoked Russia. We have had to talk about it regularly here on the tribune of They Have Consciences. So also, today, they themselves are afraid of the noise of their own boots. What can we say? Russia is harmless. Russia is slow to anger. Russia is calm. It only acts when provoked. Why are the Baltic states afraid? The Baltic states then remember the act they committed against Russia because Russia had warned. Any state that stands in our way, we will consider that state as an enemy, and we will act. Consequence: they knew it by provoking Russia. Let's go even further. So, the statement was made by the Estonian defense minister, as reported by the Financial Times. So, it is the ministers of the Baltic states themselves who announce it. The statement is made by the Estonian defense minister and the Lithuanian one. We have Hanno, Pevkur, and Dovile. Shakaliene, who are convinced, therefore, the two defense ministers are convinced that a ceasefire in Ukraine will increase the threat to the Baltic countries. Just imagine, one can have a bad feeling to such a degree. One can have such a sufficiently negative feeling. The answer is no, for countries that claim to love Ukraine. So, he says this: Russia will redistribute its forces very quickly, which means that the level of threat will increase significantly and very quickly. The Baltic countries say that if there is a ceasefire, it will allow Russia to quickly reorganize its troops. Since currently the Russian troops are on multiple fronts, they are scattered. But in the event of a ceasefire, Russia will quickly organize itself. And in the worst case scenario, if there is peace in Ukraine, according to them, since Russia is always in search of new territories to conquer, Russia will invade the Baltic states. So here is a line of reasoning that aligns a bit more with the reasoning recently made by Emmanuel Macron when he rose as a war leader. And when he tried to mobilize all of Europe, making Europe understand that after Ukraine, it is Europe that will be invaded. But Europe will be invaded starting with the Baltic states. Poland? So, here is what is being said. So, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania fear that a ceasefire agreement negotiated by the Trump administration would allow Russia to regroup and threaten them again. So, here is this warning that was given by the officials from these Baltic states. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the international news headline. Please share it as much as possible. I will be back shortly with more news. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.